Meet Michael. Michael says we should stop investing in property and start investing in crypto. I'll be super honest. I invested in crypto. I heard about Shibu Inu Shibu. 1 week later, I've lost £30,000.
She was gambling. Emmanuel Asuquo, he said, if you're not willing to put in the price for the education, don't expect the return. The only way to win in this game is if you are not, then you're gonna lose.
Ethereum.
In the industry, and a lot of people don't like me because I've been very anti-Ethereum for a while. You as the mothership company, your transactions 4 years later shouldn't still be taking half an hour to 4 hours.
Meet Michael. Michael says we should stop investing in property and start investing in crypto. Can you explain yourself, please, sir?
That's not quite the way that I was saying it. It's more, property is a great asset.
Yeah.
It has great returns.
No. Don't sit on the fence now.
But people should definitely have crypto in their portfolio. Okay. It doesn't hurt to have like 5%, 10% of your portfolio crypto because of the returns.
See, today we're going to do that real deep dive into alternative asset classes. Because I'll be super honest. I invested in crypto. I heard about Shibu Inu Shibu. 1 week later, I've lost £30,000. So talk to us, for people that are not familiar, for us kind of, I guess maybe in our head, we're older, we're more bricks and mortar, tangible assets. Like, for those that don't know, let's start real granular. What is crypto?
Crypto is basically just a digital asset. It's a digital asset. It was originally created to just transfer money, to make the transfer of money not focused on centralized entities, to not have to rely on banks, to not have to rely on payment gateways to be able to send money. So if you're in the property space, you've probably, some of you may have tried to move over £1 million. Now, moving that £1 million is going to get flagged by the bank. You're going to get stopped, Even when it comes to stocks, when it comes to liquidating your stocks, sometimes you have to wait 2 to 3 days. Now, the ultimate problem is this thing called the weekend. Most banks don't operate on a weekend. Most stocks, you have to wait until after the weekend is over to liquidate that asset.
That's why you hear when they say when the market opens.
Exactly. Which the world that we live in is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right now, we live in a digital world where yesterday, for example, I was doing business with a business partner that's in Vietnam, a business partner that was in New York, and me in London. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the world doesn't stop, but banks stop. Depending on what kind of business and industry you're in, you can't afford for the bank to stop. And especially as the global geopolitical framework of the world changes, bank stops aren't good. Perfect example is what happened in Canada, where they literally stopped and froze your people's bank accounts. For some people, that's just not on. And that is where digital assets like crypto, that is the original use case.
That's like Mary Poppins, right?
Mary Poppins, in
Isn't
what
it
way?
Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins. I'm sure it's
Bibbidi
Mary
bobbidi boo. That's what
Am
she
I getting
sings.
the wrong thing? No, I don't remember. There's a film where like they basically like they freeze the banks and everyone's outside like, where's my money?
Yeah.
It
That
is,
does
right?
happen in Mary Poppins. Yeah, it does.
Okay,
It does. But yeah, that's the original use case for these.
The run on the banks, basically.
That's what it was. Is just to have an alternative method of transferring money where you're not reliant on someone else. You're just reliant on the network. You're reliant on the community that all agree, yeah, we're going to be a part of this community. And instead of having to trust one company, you can trust all of us. And then any of the transaction you're sending, we can all see it. And we can all verify that this person actually received that amount of money. That's the key part. Is you've got crypto and then you've got blockchain. But unfortunately, people merge the two together when they are not the same thing. Blockchain is the core underlying technology. It's peer-to-peer transferring. Technically, a lot of people have been using it, but they don't realize they've been using it. So one of the best examples that I always give is LimeWire, Aries, BearShare, all of these things that we all use back a day.
By the way, if you know LimeWire, BearShare, You're showing your age a little bit because you're with me. You're where we were giving our computers the most insane viruses.
Yep.
Just to hear.
I did not
boots
say I
with
had
the
relations.
fur.
Yeah. All of that. I did not say I had relations with that woman.
Yeah.
Soldier Boy crank that coming on every time you're trying to download a movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was. That technology is peer-to-peer technology. It's instead of relying on a central entity, it's basically taking a file, splitting it up into pieces, and it's shared amongst a load of people, and then they turn the computers on and it rebuilds that file for you. That is pretty much what blockchain technology is based on. But then what's happened is it's evolved. Originally, obviously, you've heard of Bitcoin. That was the first one. That's the big daddy. And then you had Ethereum, which allowed people to start building apps, websites, and start doing other things on top of it. Now, in 2020 is when things started getting a little bit wild because people started making digital monkeys and all sorts of stuff.
We're going to get to the wild. Before we get to the wild, let's get back to my lost £30,000.
Okay, let's go back to your lost £30,000.
Obviously, the benefit of stuff trading all the time means there's constant motion. The downside is you can never sleep.
Okay.
Because I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this. And you can wake up and you're wherever the imaginary money that you thought you were going to see when you wake up in the morning.
It's not there. So
non-existent.
Do you know why it's not there? Because she was gambling.
Running a business is a constant uphill battle. You pour your heart and soul into it, working tirelessly to build something meaningful. And with interest rates rising, the opportunity to grow your hard-earned savings feels like a lifeline. As a business owner and investor myself, I know the frustrations of seeing your money dwindle while inflation soars. And that's why I was thrilled to discover Tide's business savings account. With a competitive rate of 3.81 AER variable, it's a game changer. Imagine seeing your savings grow month on month instead of slowly eroding. Tide's account offers instant access to your funds with no withdrawal fees and FSCS protection up to £85,000, giving you both peace of mind and flexibility. Don't let rising costs and economic uncertainty hold back your business. Take control of your finances today. Tide is generously offering new members a boosted rate of 3.81 AER variable, where new Tide members receive a 0.77 AER boost on the standard 3.04 AER rate until the 1st of June 2025. After which the rate goes back to 3.29 AER with no interest on balances above £75,000. It's time to give your business the financial boost it deserves. Check out the link in the description to learn more. And if you sign up with my code PROPERTYBYKAZYQ1, you'll get £100 cash back when you fund £5,000 into your account in the first 30 days of opening. Terms and conditions apply. And for full details, visit tide.co/savings. Rate correct as of 6th of February 2025. Now back to the video. I see.
This is the truth and the reality that 98% of people in crypto and even the people building the companies don't want to admit. I'm one of the only people in the space that is just constantly saying this is gambling. That's what it is. Because for me, a lot of people that I see getting into the space, they're getting into a crypto and a digital asset as an investment based on a recommendation from a friend. That is a gamble. That is not intelligent investment. That is not looking at the company, looking at its revenue, looking at its founders, looking at the founders' back history, what companies they've been involved in the past, going and looking at the partnerships that they've got, looking at the other investors that are involved. If you're not doing this kind of due diligence, then you are gambling. If you can't explain to me how that company makes revenue, it's a gamble.
And I think that's the thing with a lot of these crypto companies. It is highly marketing led over tech led.
Yep.
Like the idea of something. So obviously we see it at a real top level with the meme coins and stuff like that. But even with, coins that potentially have an ideology behind them, it's very much just a good idea that's marketed well rather than something that in practice has any real framework and grounding that works.
It's a shame because it's all come from the venture capital world. So a lot of people get into crypto, but they don't understand the venture capital world. You have to understand the venture capital world to be able to be successful in crypto, because the venture capital world is the big money, the whales. There is whole corporations where they are taking billions of dollars off people, off these family offices, off these sometimes banks, sometimes insurance companies, sometimes pension companies, and they have to get a return for their investors in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So they don't care. So what they'll do is they'll invest into these cryptos. They then get unlocks before anyone else. They then get
unlocks?
And unlocks is where they get access to their tokens before anybody else. Their tokens aren't tied up. They basically have a super insider knowledge, and they can control when the price is going to go down. Because if enough of these early investors decide to sell at the same time, then guess what's going to happen? The price is going to go down. And this is what happens a lot of the time, because a lot of these VCs, they aren't in it for the long-term progress and the future of that company. So a lot of the time, the reason why there's empty promises is because these business owners, 10% of the time, actually have a good idea, have a good thesis, and like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Let me go to this venture capital company and get some money off them. They get the money off them. They've now got the money to go and build out what they need to build out, which is going to take them 2 years, 3 years to develop, especially if it's a game. You're not going to develop some AAA game in like 2 months. But then what happens is the VCs dump. The VCs go, well, actually, I'm now 10x up, or I'm now 50x up. How am I, like, to be honest, most people in the world, if you're 10x, especially 50x up, are you not selling?
Yeah.
Of course you're selling. And if you've got other people to keep happy, you are definitely selling some to keep them happy, and then the rest is yours for profit. And that then means the project's then tanked because the token's dumped. Yes, the project still has some money and some runway to build what they said, but their reputation is now finished, done, halas. Like, people aren't interested because people are like, oh, I invested in this because I was told that you were going to build this out and you were going to do this. They still are, but now the community is pissed, bro. They don't want to look at your app. They don't want to look at your website. They just think you're a scammer. And this is where I think the big problem is people just don't understand the venture capital game.
So do you think it's almost like, I guess what happened was, with the idea of crypto, was to like decentralize banking, to have stuff that was supposed to have a lot of anonymity, was supposed to be very much for the people. But the capitalist culture coming into it took away from all of the projects and just meant that, well, actually, big money still controls it. All the banks that you wanted to move away from,
they still control it.
They still control it, just with a different arm. They're just controlling it. They're a different, type.
I'll give a great example that I educate everybody on all the time. So in the Ethereum network, it's probably the biggest network, biggest blockchain that there is. Loads of other blockchains are built on top of it. The main wallet that people use to buy, to sell, to trade is called MetaMask. One of their biggest investors is JPMorgan. So I thought you were trying to get away from these banks. Yes, these banks are saying JPMorgan's like, oh, crypto's bad, JPMorgan's got their own private blockchain that they do transfers with other banks. You can't use that. You're not getting access to that. But the news and the media is like, oh yeah, sometimes blockchain's good when they want it to be. Why would the media all of a sudden be like, blockchain's good? Oh, maybe because they've got loads of bags in the space and they need the retail market to come in and go, oh yeah, my mate Billy told me that I should get into Zonex because Zonex is going to do international transfers for Nexo. And it's like,
shout out Billy, man. Shout out Billy.
And it's just like, unfortunately, people want to get the results, but they don't want to put in the time that's necessary to get those results. And Emmanuel Asuko, the financial advisor, he said it great. Like, if you're not willing to put in the price for the education, don't expect the return. And I think that's what's happened in the space is people are like, oh, this guy got this result. This guy got this result. I can get this result. It's like, nah, but you aren't educated like this person is. You can't, unless you're going to put in your 3 years like you would with a degree of hard work, researching, going to the events, going to the lectures, going to the seminars, reading all the reports. Don't expect 100% returns year on year. Like, don't be silly.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think a lot of people, like, I remember when I was sort of 18, 19 and people first discovered the betting shop.
Yep,
they first discovered, like, I had friends that would swear blind they had a system to beat the roulette machine, or they knew that you had to put the money in a certain way because when you did it in this way, because that's the time they got their win, and people convince themselves they've got a system. And I think that's why it's very interesting that you compare the investment side of things for like the majority to gambling.
There is systems, but honestly, I've been in this space now 5 years professionally. The only way to win in this game is to be an insider. If you are not an insider working with that founder and with that development team, then you're going to lose, because you don't know what the token unlocks really are. You don't know what the distribution of the tokens actually is. You don't know like when a token is going to actually be on an exchange. You don't know anything unless you're part of that inside team.
I think that's what we talk about a lot of the time. Like when you are looking at any investment strategy, whether it be property, whether it be forex, whether it be crypto, really having that, and we're not talking about it fraudulently, but having that insider information, understanding what's really happening. So we talk about it in like the property space, like within like the community we run, understanding how to best operate auctions. What are the people that are regularly trading like certain types of properties which are likely to catch you unawares that could have additional cost attached. So I think having that insider information that the majority don't operate with is key. Now, I didn't actually let you introduce yourself properly because we did a deep dive into the fact that you should straight in that we should invest in crypto over property.
I want to highlight again. It's not that you should invest in crypto over property.
No, we're gonna get there. Don't worry, we're gonna get there. Okay, cool. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get to your healthily balanced portfolio. But before we do, like for those that are now obviously here, you know a lot about this crypto and blockchain space. What's your background? What did you study previously?
Believe it or not, I actually studied acting, performing arts. I studied performing arts and very quickly realized that the whole of the performing arts world, movies, TV, film, is just fundraising. Like that's all it is. And I got told by my university lecturer in the first lecture, unless you come from a wealthy family or unless you come from a wealthy family or unless you have loads of money yourself, then acting is going to be a hobby for you. It's not actually a career. And I was like, oh, wow, is it like that? Okay, cool. Luckily for me, my life is just a series of very fortunate events, consciously putting myself in the right places at the right time. And when I was in university, very luckily, my first business partner, his brother was playing football for Manchester City. And then we had another business partner and he came from one of the largest family offices in Canada. And we decided to put some student events together. And that is when our student events were doing higher bar spends than pretty much most Saturday nights. We were doing Tuesdays where we were doing 30K on the bar, whereas on a Saturday, sometimes they were doing 10K. And we ended up getting partnerships with Diageo to launch Ciroc across Manchester, partnerships with LVMH to launch the Dom Perignon glow-in-the-dark bottles, if you remember them. And just that whole time when I was around these footballers, these musicians, just no one was investing. And I was just like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Like, everyone's quick to buy a Rolex, everyone's quick to buy a Merc and then crash it. Everyone's getting into property but getting into bad deals because they're footballers and they're just getting taken advantage of. But no one's just doing the safe thing and investing in Google. No one's doing the safe thing and just investing in Apple. Like, if you're quick to buy an iPhone, why aren't you quick to invest in the business that you know isn't really going anywhere? And it just was just sending me crazy that no one was doing it. So I just started reading up on it. Was luckily, again, that I ended up having a mentor that gave me 52 books to read on financial literacy and investing. Books like One Up on Wall Street, The Intelligent Investor, Money Mastered the Game, The Total Trader. I just read all these books in a year and it just blew my mind in terms of like how the world actually worked once I started reading these books. And then I thought to myself, maybe everything I'm reading isn't as true as I think it is. I need to kind of talk to some actual bankers and some people actually in this space. Was doing my event still, and at one of my events met a director at JPMorgan who was in gold acquisitions, and then he started teaching me about quantitative easing, the VIX, talking to me about a concept called quadruple witching and stuff like this. And I was just like, whoa, like I thought I knew what was going on, but when you're actually hearing it from the people actually in the game, steering the ship, there's a whole other level. And then it was around that time someone told me to go and look at this thing called Ethereum. And I was just like, okay, let me go and look at it. and then was like, oh, this is like that Bitcoin thing that my mom's been talking about since 2012. My mom's a librarian. She's obsessed with these kind of things. And some guy told her about it in 2012. And I told her, it's a scam. It's a scam. Stay away. Stay away. And then
Did mum stay away?
Yes and no. Got involved, sold it because I told her, got involved again, sold it because I told her, like, what are you doing? And then we just stopped
Your mum
talking.
still talking to you?
No. Well, the crypto, my mom's still talking to me, but crypto and Bitcoin is banned in my household because we're just start arguing about it. So yeah, it's just completely banned. But yeah, then from there in 2017, Ethereum was around $150 around that price mark. Is when I was just fascinated by this technology that could tokenize everything. Because to me, I was like, what can't go on chain? Like,
just again, let's just wind this back because a lot of people are not that familiar. Go back to, what does tokenizing something mean?
Okay. So tokenizing means basically putting the transactions on a blockchain. The core purpose of a blockchain is to provide transparency and traceability. So I asked myself, what in the world doesn't need transparency and traceability? And I realized, okay, so let's say, for example, the example I always give is a lot of people are very reliant on Google Drive, on, say, for example, the iCloud, on Dropbox.
Yep.
You don't own that data. And some people have very valuable data on those platforms. And if you were to lose your iPhone, or the Apple service was to go down, or Amazon service to go down, the disruption that would cause in the world is bonkers. If people lost those files, people have got their health records, their property records, they've got everything there. Yeah. But people just don't seem to have ever thought about, if that goes down, what happens to me? But that is actually a real risk, especially as we get into this kind of geopolitical cyber warfare world. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, the safest way would be, instead of having that all in a centralized server like we do, how about you put it on a blockchain where this information is now distributed and split into tiny little pieces and encoded, that so nobody can trace it back to you and whatever, unless you want them to. And then every transaction that you're doing, there's proof of it. So let's say, for example, in the property space, that would be the equivalent of, you get the land deeds to a property, but instead of it being, you can then choose, you know what, I trust this person, this person, this person, this person. I want to split this land deed up. I own it, but they've got duplicate copies of it. So that if anything happens to me, anything happens to my phone, water damage, a volcano, whatever, I know I can always get this back. All I've got to do is message this friend and go, can you send me the copy of that thing back? Then on top of that, if you now are doing a business deal, you do a transaction and you're sending something to Paul, you're sending 100K to Paul. And Paul's like, I didn't get it. Well, guess what? Because it's on the blockchain, James and Sarah can actually see that you've done that transaction and can go, well, you're lying. We can see it here, like the transaction's gone to you. This technology, this is where and why I think it has gotten negative press from a lot of corporations, because they don't want you seeing what they're doing. Like, if blockchain becomes standard, the whole world becomes transparent and the whole world can see everything everyone is doing at all times, which in some respects is a safer world, but in some respects, people ain't really trying to have that that transparency like that. So that's where I think a lot of the press and the bad media and a lot of the bad actors come from, is because people just don't want blockchain to become as real as it should be and as powerful as it could be.
Where do you think, like, numbers wise, like you spoke about Ethereum being at around $150, where is it now?
It's about 2,400 roughly.
Where do you think it can go?
Ethereum, I genuinely believe Ethereum will hit a $1 trillion market cap. So it'll get to around 10K in my opinion.
It's a lot. See, in terms of return on investment, so obviously it's a lot of money. For those of people that obviously hear numbers like that, and we hear it all the time with people saying, I think Bitcoin can get to X amount, I think Ethereum can get to this amount. But again, that is very much they're hearing it from the quote unquote from the Billy of where it can get to. For those that want to diversify maybe out of property and into something like crypto, what advice would you have for them?
My golden rule: top five, top five, top five. That just means if you're too lazy and you don't want to do the research, it's not financial advice, but you would look at what the top 5 blockchains are and learn those top 5. Because it's simple. It's not hard. Like, you just go on Google, watch a few things on YouTube, use ChatGPT, ask it how it makes revenue, ask it who the investors are, ask it how many developers are building on that blockchain. And you would just stick to the top 5 and only put 5% of your income in. Because then in terms of returns, like in the blockchain space, the returns have just been far out exceeding any other asset classes. It's not even competition, the returns that Bitcoin and Ethereum have produced over the last 10 years. You're talking thousands of percent, like not 10%, 20%. You're talking on a yearly basis, 100 to 150% when you do a year-on-year returns, which is crazy. And I think what people aren't really understanding is 5% of your portfolio getting that kind of return changes your portfolio returns from 10% to 20, 30 year on year. So just having that small allocation is very, 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 very powerful. And then if you're in bear markets, which means when the markets are down, it's 5% of your portfolio. It's not really going to hurt you too much. And if you can't afford 5% of your portfolio to go in crypto, then you shouldn't be investing in the first place. That's my thing on it, is if you can't afford to lose it, then you can't afford to invest it. That's the golden rule that I always kind of was teaching to footballers is, okay, so you want to go buy this watch, make sure you can buy the watch 3 times with your bonuses, with your player wages, whatever it is, then use a portion of that to invest into crypto. Then if you do a 10x on that crypto, well, guess what? You can buy that watch 3-4 times now. Like it's a different, it's a discipline. So top 5 there, but also I always teach people that before investing in crypto, they should be investing in the stock market and in property first, because they're solid. They're not going anywhere. Crypto is for people that have got time. If you ain't got time on your hands, don't invest in crypto.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, I don't even really understand half of what's an app, what's an exchange, what's just a whatever. But I can't remember what I used to use.
Coinbase,
I think I used to
crypto.com.
use Coinbase just to work out like what I had and what I owned. And I'm looking at it and I see green line, red line, green line.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I said, I'm not opening this app anymore. It just is what it is. Whatever's in there is in there, and I'll get back to it. But it's interesting you speak about diversification at sort of 5% from your existing portfolio. We hear a lot of buzz terms in the crypto space that, you know, I myself am not always as familiar with. So you just mentioned the bear market, which is when things are going down, and how to kind of behave in that. I've also heard about the bull market and the bull run. What does that mean, and how does that change how you should be investing?
Okay, so unfortunately what happens is everybody starts investing in the bull market. So think of it like a bull and its horns means that the market is going up. Think of it as a bear market means the bear's stomping down and the markets are going down. What a lot of people do is they start investing when they hear everybody talking about it. So what's going to happen is
Guilty.
what's going to happen is Bitcoin's going to get to
fear of missing out, though, right?
It's the fear of missing out, right? But when the market is going up, guess what that means? The more it goes up, the more it increases the chances for you to get dumped on, because the more it goes up, there is people that were in it.
Listening. I'm just going to go and check my portfolio while we're talking, see what's happening, see if I've got to dump anything.
So it means that, let's say, for example, if I was in Bitcoin at 8K, right?
Yeah.
If Bitcoin is now 80K, am I more likely to sell? Of course I am. Than the person that's got in at 50K and is waiting for it to go to 100. Because at 8K and now it's 80K, I've just done a 10x return. Like, I've got 1,000% return on my money. So of course I'm very likely to go, yo, hang on a minute. Like, I'm thinking about selling now. Yeah. Whereas you getting in at 50K because you've been told, oh yeah, Bitcoin's the thing now. Like, for you to get even 100% return, you need the whole entire market cap of Bitcoin, which is now over trillions of dollars to double. So you need $1 trillion to come into Bitcoin, which is just not very likely to happen in a 3-month, 6-month window, right? So I think that's the area that people need to understand, is that bull markets is not actually the best time to invest. The best time to invest is actually in the bear markets.
Yeah.
It's because now you have depreciated assets, which exactly like property. What you're trying to do, you're trying to find depreciated assets that you know they've got untapped value that nobody else is looking at. It's the exact same thing. And this is why I tell people, learn about the stock market first. Find somebody like Debison Osakita with Stock Pickers Academy. Go and learn from him about stocks and learn about the makeup of what makes a good company, their revenue, their margins, so on and so forth. And just apply those principles to the blockchain company that you're thinking about investing in, and say to yourself, okay, if this, I'll give a case scenario. So Ethereum has the ability to make apps to be able to build websites and does transactions. The transactions take about 5 minutes to half an hour. The market cap is around $500 million, right?
And what does market cap
Market
mean?
cap is the total value of the asset. Whereas Solana, its market cap is around 40 billion. It can also build websites. It can also do transactions. However, the transactions are 5 seconds. However, there's more transactions on Solana than there is on Ethereum. So which one's the undervalued asset? Clearly, Solana is the undervalued asset. Clearly, it's much more likely for Solana to go from 40 billion market cap to 80 billion market cap than Ethereum to go from 400 billion to 800 billion. This is the kind of thing that you're looking for, is this kind of undervalued asset. 2 companies that do the same thing, but one of them is performing better, but is priced lower than the one that's a bit bigger. Same thing with property.
And it's exactly, so when you say it like that, I'm like, oh, so this isn't just Shiba Inu. There's actually a principle behind it.
Yep.
Because exactly the same thing in the property space, when people talk about, oh, when's a good time to buy? The reality is always now, because you have to operate in the market that you're in. In a market where, it's maybe slightly stagnating, the prices aren't really going up. It's about, okay, there's going to be sellers there that are going to say, I think prices are going to go down, so I'm going to be a little bit more motivated to sell. You're going to get a better price. You're going to be able to negotiate better terms, and you're going to be able to have, in the property space, obviously we can have a little bit more control over the asset in terms of how we add value. But there's still the same thing that we operate in a market. And I always tell people is, the price of your asset will be determined by the market. You can say, I want to sell something for £500,000, but you'll be taken to market and be told what it's worth.
Facts. That's exactly what it is in the blockchain space. I'd also add that, like what you said, is in property, you can determine the value that you add to it. Blockchain is exactly the same. One of the things that I get paid to do is to build out these ecosystems. And that is to find entrepreneurs and startups that will build on these blockchains and add more value to them and increase the market cap by increasing the revenue, increasing the transactions, building games, building shopping sites, getting partnerships with Google, Shopify, whatever. That is my role, is blockchains hire me to build out these partnerships, which then increases the market cap, which then increases the token value, right? And I think there is that, if anything, is where the bigger gains are. That's where the money is. And if you're in, or whatever your profession is, that is the lane of blockchain you should specialize in. If you are in property, only look for blockchain startups that are in property. Why? Because you've got an unfair edge and unfair advantage over everybody else. Because you can look at what they're doing and go, that's not true. That's not true. That's not real. These are unrealistic returns. Well, you'd be able to look at their website and just go, oh, okay, this person's worked for Colliers. This person's worked for da-da-da. And they've got them on their team, on their board. Okay, cool. Let me call my guy at Colliers and see if this is real. Whereas if you're trying to now get into one about veterinary projects, what do you know about veterinary projects? You don't know nothing about veterinary projects. Are you a vet? No. Do you know anything about the veterinary industry and vet insurance? No. So why are you investing in something that's just completely out of your field and out of your depth? And it's just, again, people just obsessed with getting involved in something because their friend told them about it, rather than getting involved in something that they actually know about. Now, here's the secret, the big secret, which I've been trying to help a lot of people in the property space do. There is tons of these blockchain startups that are raising millions of pounds, 5 million, 10 million. That's my job. That's what I do, is help them raise these funds, right? And they are all looking for advisors. They are all looking for somebody that's actually experienced in the field that they're building in to pay them a retainer of 10K, 20K, sometimes 50K a month to just give advice. That's because they've got this idea, they can build it, but they don't actually know anyone with the industry contacts, the industry know-how. They'll give you the retainer, and then on top of that, they'll give you equity in the company, and then on top of that, they'll give you tokens in the company as well. What money have you?
I need some free tokens to recoup my losses.
Well, there you go. Then I'll hook you up with some advisory deals. So, like, what money have you put down there? Nothing. What have you given? Your time to an aspiring entrepreneur, which you're probably doing anyway. But most aspiring entrepreneurs aren't willing to give you 5K, 10K, 50K at a time for an hour of your time a week. Like, and that's the play that I would tell anyone that's a professional now is, if you're in legal, if you're a vet, if you're in football, if you're in whatever, I can guarantee you there is somebody building a blockchain project out there that would want you as an advisor on their team. So just go and find them.
It's interesting. Let's play a little game. Now, it's not financial advice, but I'm going to ask for a...
Here we go.
Now I'm going to play a game.
Everyone does this.
I'm not just checking my portfolio here. Okay. However, just want to give me an out of 10 number. So, Bitcoin. Just give me an out of 10 in where you think that as a project
it's not... for Bitcoin to depreciate more than 80%, because what used to happen with Bitcoin, every 4 years, standardly, Bitcoin would drop about 80%. And then it would drop. Then now the average rate is around 60% is the most it'll drop. For Bitcoin to drop below a 60, 70% mark, we'd have to have World War III.
Yeah.
But the irony is, if we did have World War III, then Bitcoin's value would go up, because guess what would happen? Loads of people geopolitically would be trying to move their money out of countries, but the banks wouldn't be letting them. So what they're going to use to move their money? Yeah. Bitcoin. So it's this weird, ironic thing about Bitcoin now.
If the world burns, technically it should go down. That would be the only way it could do. But realistically, because of the actual practical application of it, it'd go down and go back up.
Yeah, that's why it's such a weird conundrum. This is why Bitcoin really probably isn't going anywhere, because so many uber wealthy people have it as their... You know, like how people have their gold bullion? Yeah. People just have a little stash of Bitcoin just so that, okay, if something goes wrong,
rainy day fund.
I know I can get out of the country with $1 million, $2 million on a digital ledger and be in another country. Or I know I can just send it to another wallet in another country, open up a laptop, boom, I got my money.
So it's the idea of, I guess, too big to fail, almost.
Almost, yeah.
Almost too big to fail.
Almost too big to fail.
In that idea of, like, it's, they say, like, if you owe a bank £10,000, it's your problem. Yep. If you owe a bank £10 million, it's now our problem, because we've all got money in this, so we can't let it fail.
And now all the biggest institutions in the world are involved. So your BlackRock's involved, your JPMorgan's involved. They're all involved. So, yeah.
What about XRP?
So XRP is a very interesting one. So I was a big believer in XRP. XRP's had done some very interesting returns in the last year. I think it's gone up 200, 300%, just on some geopolitical stuff and their correct alignment. My thought and thesis with XRP isn't the main company. The main company is Ripple. Ripple are the ones that make XRP. XRP is technically a testnet. What is a testnet? It's a version of something that's just used to test and see what its capabilities are. The Ripple guys, their relationships are with sovereign wealth funds. This is nation states, treasuries, and savings banks. Are they going to put a sovereign wealth fund's transfers on a public blockchain that me and you can see? No, they're not going to do that. The testnet's just there to see that it works and to prove to these sovereign wealth funds, look, you can store your money in Bitcoin, but if you want to move it quickly, it might take 4 hours, 6 hours to do a transaction. Ripple has designed XRP to just be an alternative to Bitcoin for super wealthy people to transfer their money in a matter of seconds. And so I'm just very skeptical that XRP will go on to a 500 billion, 40 billion market cap. I just don't see that future, because now XRP at the time when it came out didn't really have many competitors that could do these lightning fast transactions, but now everyone can do it. So it's just like, I don't know.
I guess it's like that conversation we had off mic about Skype, when Skype was the only
the only dog in town
platform. If you're thinking video calling, not using my phone, all right, we're gonna have to have a Skype call. Like if you was in Dubai, for example, where you couldn't use FaceTime, couldn't use WhatsApp videos, you're like, well, we'll use Skype. Fast forward to 2020, you
Too many
thought
options.
Skype would go flying, but realistically, your Zooms, your Teams, your like Meets,
too many options
took over.
And that's exactly the same thing it is with Ripple. Is there's now just too much competition. There is literally about 50 companies doing the exact same thing, and now the blockchain space is in this weird space where the transactions are sub 1 second, and they're competing over like, oh, my transaction is 0.2 seconds, mine is 0.1 seconds. It's like it's just
your fingers work that quickly for that to even
exactly like who even cares that it's that fast now. So I think they're in an interesting space, but the thing to watch out for with XRP isn't XRP, it's Ripple. It's getting involved in that Ripple IPO. If you can find someone that's a broker dealer for you and you're an accredited investor, and you can be involved in the Ripple IPO, the Circle IPO, the Kraken IPO, like that's where the money is. If you don't know what IPO is, it's initial public offering. This is when a company that is private now becomes public and goes on the stock market. Very
interesting. Final one, which I know you want that, Ethereum.
People, I'm in the industry and in the space. A lot of people don't like me because I've been very anti-Ethereum for a while. I've been saying that Ethereum, again, just hasn't made the necessary changes that a $400 billion market cap company should be making. It shouldn't be taking me. Yes, they've allowed other people to build apps on top of it where the transactions can go fast. But you as the mothership company, like your transactions 4 years later shouldn't still be taking half an hour to 4 hours. Like what's going on? Like your main wallet shouldn't have not been upgraded in 4 years. Like how often does your phone upgrade? How often does like anything upgrade? All the time. If anything, I should be getting annoyed about how many updates I'm being told I'm getting. So I'm just a bit like, why is this thing not updating? What's
going on? What's behind the curtain?
What's going on? And what I think it is that Ethereum are very comfortable because JPMorgan's using it. JPMorgan's using it for their private blockchain, which has done over $1 trillion in transactions in the last year, but it's not public information.
And I think one of these things, though, we see it with like company valuations, that sometimes when you look at companies, if your sole value comes from a specific client, long term, it means that all it means is somebody could literally say, well, if you don't do X, we're going to do Y. And all of a sudden they've got your company in a chokehold, and you do have to be very careful, which is why I think it goes back to the importance of, with any type of investment, to make it no longer be gambling or just hoping.
Hopium.
You really have to understand how to look at the skeleton of any potential investment opportunity and how to appraise a deal. Which is basically what we talk about, whether we're talking about property, whether we're talking about Forex, whether we're talking about stocks, whether we're talking about crypto. It's really, can you appraise an opportunity and be able to benchmark opportunity A versus opportunity B? Can you read a balance sheet? Can you review a legal pack? Because all of these interesting, intricate bits of information are what are really going to tell you if the price point matches the actual intrinsic value.
Exactly. And I love that you said intrinsic value, because that is like the core of investing in the stock market, which then translates to the crypto market. But people just aren't doing it. And I'd love to share my way of appraising a company just really quickly. So the first thing that I would do when I'm looking at a blockchain company is, number one, I try and find out how many developers are building on that blockchain, because the blockchain is just like cloud computing. It's like having your own web browser, right? If no one's building any apps for it, Where's the money coming from? Like, if you've been a blockchain that's been around for 3 years, 4 years, but you've only got 10 apps, like, what are you doing? We got AI now. Your AI can build an app in half an hour. Like, what are you playing at? Like, how you got billions of dollars, or you've raised tens of millions of dollars, but you got 2 apps? Like, what's going on there? Or why are the apps just dead and difficult to use? Like, they should be slick and clean and easy to use. So number one is the amount of developers that are using it and the amount of apps that are actually usable on it. Number two from there is something called TVL. So TVL is total value locked, which means how many people from that community that have got tokens have decided to give the tokens back to the blockchain so that they can improve the blockchain. So if you've got a really high TVL, that means that there's people that have done a lot of research into your project and are like, you know what? I'm actually happy to just get 5%, 10% a year back instead of trying to get a big 500%, 600%, because I believe in the technology and I believe where this project is going to go. Number three key area is to look at the investors. Again, most of this is super public. It's on CoinMarketCap, it's on Google, it's on ChatGPT. Just type in I don't know, Quantix protocol, Monad protocol, SUI say, and just type in who are the venture capital companies behind this. If you haven't got your big boys like Sequoia, A16, BlackRock, Coinbase, if they're not backing it, then it's probably not going to be here forever. Yes, there's some smaller ones, but as a beginner getting in the space, you want to see some names that you're like, oh, okay, you know what? If I go on Sequoia's website, they've backed Facebook, they've backed Uber, they've backed like all of these big boys.
It's top level. Like for those that are in property and are trying to maybe get the translation, is if you purchase properties at auction and you're saying, okay, look, who's the seller? Is it likely to be an issue? Is it going to be a trader? Like, of course, there's going to be some people who you're not familiar with that are selling great properties. But realistically, when you see like the common names of big housing associations, you know that look like when we're looking at our L&Qs and other big housing associations, they generally are just disposing of assets. So you kind of know that it's a safe property from an investment standpoint. You still got to do due diligence, but as a starting point, as a beginner appraisal, it gives you a little bit more peace of mind.
Yeah. And then I'd say the other two are the obvious ones is partnerships. So if I'm hearing that this blockchain's got partnerships with Amazon, Disney, bloody Siemens and whatever, then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, they've clearly done their due diligence. They've done their research. They've got billions of dollars, millions that they're paying people to do research. They're probably researching better than I can. So I'm going to go with that.
To give you the comparable, when you're looking at maybe areas to invest, if you're looking at different areas, we always say, if you don't want to do the work yourself, follow the money. If you follow the infrastructure, if you already see your big home builders, your Barrett Homes, your Galliards are building, if you can go and see that, okay, we're investing in Crossrail, maybe a new Westfields, again, the companies that spend the money to do that market research, they spend
a lot,
like millions and millions of pounds to work out where the next hot area is. And if you don't want to do that work yourself, just follow the money.
Exactly. That's my final secret play of investing in this game is you can just literally go on Google, type in these big crypto companies that I've just mentioned, your Grayscale, BlackRock, Vanguard, A16, Multicoin Capital, Pantera, Dragonfly, and you can just literally look at their portfolios. Like these are just literally go on Google or ChatGPT, type in top 10 crypto VCs, and then go, what are the top 10 holdings that they're holding? Well, there you go. There's whatever you see is common across all of them. Then there you go. That's what they're holding. That's where the big boys are. And then I think the final thing, the obvious one, is blockchain is all about transactions, right? So just a Google search, a ChatGPT search of how many transactions has this blockchain done. If it's done like 10,000 transactions in a year, that's whack, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, how you got all these millions of dollars, but you're not doing any transactions? What's going on?
And I think there's so many things that you can see the crossover, and you can see how the same plays work in different markets. Like, if you're trying to pick a good estate agent to sell your property, and you don't want to do the due diligence of going into everyone, sitting down, drive around. Who has all the boards up? Go on Rightmove.
That's it.
Look at the
That's
sold
it.
prices. Look
That's
at
it.
who's commonly coming up to say they've done the business. So I think one of the interesting things are we have loads of people. We recently had somebody in the jury space, had people talk about Forex. We're now speaking about crypto. But the common denominations are very much that it's not a case of do you do one or the other. It's investment diversification, but investing with information rather than investing with just hope.
Yep. And that's the space that I'm in. Is well, my business partner says it all the time, is that the three things that no matter how wealthy somebody is, and I'm lucky enough that I work with billionaires educating them on blockchain, is they're after three things: information, access, and knowledge. Yeah. So information, access. Oh no, I've forgotten what the third one was now. Oh, it's gone out of my head. But the two main ones are information and access. Like, no matter how much money you've got, there's certain information that you can't get unless you've done the research, done the time, or unless you know a certain person. So people are willing to pay for that information. And then next is access. So in my space, because I'm helping these startups raise, sometimes I get startups that are hot and everyone's like, yo, I want to invest in this project because it's gonna blow. Like, for example, one of my clients at the moment, he's a 17-year-old who exited his first business at 15 for around 8 figures, and now his new business after 12 months is already revenue 1.5 million. So he's got a word around town is, yo, this guy's the next guy. Like, so I've already got investors like chasing me, going, how do I invest in this guy's project? And that's what people are willing to pay for, is the access to be able to go, can you put me in a room with this person so that I can invest in his project and go there? And I think once you start understanding that, as long as you can get yourself information and access, and you just find your lane and you stick to knowing that you have an unrivaled knowledge in your lane and you have the information, and you have, because clearly that's what you've got in the property game. You've clearly got access to deals that other people don't have. You've clearly got information that other people don't have, and you've got that through time, research, and your network. And I think people just think that you can just cheat the game of life and just and it's just, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's like everyone can get lucky, but you don't get lucky all the time. You get lucky all the time by putting yourself in a position
That's it.
It's not really luck. It's through being in the right time and place. But we really appreciate having you on. For people that want to connect with you, how can they get in touch? How can they find you?
So I'm not on Instagram. I probably turn my Instagram on every 3-4 years, but that's I am Mr. Harding. Outside of that, I'm mainly on Twitter, one Mr. Harding. Outside of that, LinkedIn, Michael Harding. Outside of that, you can contact us on our website, Foundation.Ventures or BlockchainSensei.com.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate having you on. That has been another episode of the PBK podcast. If you've liked it, if you've enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe. If you've got any comments, questions, let us know in the comments section, and we'll be back next week with another amazing guest for another great episode. Peace.